Hello YouTube, I decided to do a quick one-day project and I thought I would make Grug, who's a children's book character from the 1980s. The book was written by Ted Pryor. So normally I start with a wire armature that has long legs and long arms, but on this particular one I'm going to make a shorter armature. So I start with this wooden block, made 4 holes just using a drill, and then I've stuck some 2mm aluminium wire into each of the holes just using super glue. You can see they're quite long lengths of wire, and what I'm going to do is twist them around each other to make it stronger. So if you're going to have a go at a similar project yourself, you might want some of these materials. So super glue, it's worth buying that in bottles because you get more for your money and it lasts longer. Little pair of wire cutters, 2mm aluminium wire because it's easy to bend. And if you haven't got a normal drill, you could use one of these little drill vices. So like I said before, I just twist those wires around each other so they end up looking like this. That makes them much stronger and it means that I can start my armature. Also having the 4 holes in the base just makes that a lot stronger as well, and it means that it's not going to snap off easily on the base when you're working on it. Okay, you can see here I've just wrapped the wire around itself, and I've added on more wire again that's twisted around itself, and I've created this shape. It's basically like a sort of a dome shape with a kind of a cross support where his legs are, and another support going right down through the center of him. If you don't know who Grug is, he was very similar to other books that were around at the time, like Mr. Men, Munch-Bunch, Timbuctoo, all those kind of similar sorts of books. Quite a small square book, and I think he did, like, I don't know, 30 or 40, something like that, different Grug stories. He's just a real simple drawing, really shaggy character with a big nose, big eyes, cool mouth, and then he's got massive feet and little tufts on the top of his head. So next what I do is I get a whole load of aluminium foil and I squash it all together, scrunch it all up, and push it into the armature until I end up with a shape like this. The aluminium foil is just a really quick way of working. It means that you can get a shape like this in a couple of minutes basically. Next I go over the top of this with super PVA glue, or you can use wood flooring PVA glue, and kitchen paper. So I just put the glue on, put a bit of the kitchen paper on. I've torn all of the straight edges off my kitchen paper because I don't like having those kind of hard lines anywhere. This just makes everything soften in. Now just put the kitchen paper on, paint more glue over the top, and just keep building up layers until I've done about 3 or 4 layers. And then when that dries, it dries nice and strong. I then take more aluminium foil and I just basically get 2 strips that are about the same size, and I wrap them around the legs and squash them all up until they end up looking like this. When they're a nice kind of thickness, I'm then also taking some cardboard tubing. This is just the cardboard tube that was out of the center of the aluminium foil, and then what I do is just make a little cut down the middle of the tiny bits of cardboard tubing, and that allows me to kind of pull them apart and I can stretch them over the aluminium foil. You can see that I've cut these to the right length that's going to be exactly the same as the legs, and that'll just slot over the top. I use one of these craft saws for cutting those slots in the cardboard tubes. It's worth mentioning that before I put the cardboard tubes on, I put more PVA glue on the aluminium foil. Then I just simply put the tubes over the top, and then I fix them in position with some of these cable ties. That just holds them while the glue sets. So now I've done my armature and my main kind of overall body form, I'm going to start with the details, and this is all done using Milliput. If you haven't used Milliput before, it's a 2-part putty. You mix the 2 parts together in equal amounts and it sets rock hard at room temperature in about 4 hours. The colour that you're seeing on your screen is standard Milliput, which is a yellow-grey colour. I'm going to be using Milliput Metallic today, which is more of a silvery sort of colour, and also silver grey. There are various other colours though, like black, there's terracotta, there's superfine white, and there's turquoise blue as well. There's quite a lot to choose from. So I started by just rolling long sausages of milliput and then flattening them into strips, and then I just went along with a modelling tool and I just scored all these lines into them. Like I say, Grug is a very kind of shaggy looking character, so I just wanted to get that effect of like hair basically by putting in loads and loads of these lines. So I did the bottom strip first and attached it on, and then gradually worked up his body with the strips right to the top, and then I've made that extra section that's going to go on the top here. I'm waiting for that to dry, and then I'll put some more soft milliput in the top, and then I'll just push it on to the top of him. I've also added a thin layer of milliput around those cardboard tubes for his legs. That just fixes it to the base as well. Okay, the next stage after I've put his top on was to make his nose, and you can see there it's just basically like rolling a ball of milliput and then turning it into an oval by just rolling it slightly in my hand and then just squashing it on, and that seems to have worked quite well. I've managed to keep it fairly smooth, and then I'll be able to paint it later on as well. Okay, next I did all of this. I did his eyes. Again, that was just two kind of oval shapes squashed on, and then two smaller oval shapes squashed on to make the pupils in his eyes. I also did his mouth, which was similar, where I basically rolled a sausage kind of shape, squashed it on, and then I used what's called a ball stylus tool just to make that groove in his mouth. For the arms, I made them separately, and I had a bit of wire going right through the centre of them. Then I was able to drill a hole up into him on both sides and then fix the arms up in place with some super glue, and then I've used more milliput to kind of add those grooves and things to make the hair in the arms. His little hands and his little feet, well, his feet aren't particularly little, they're quite big feet. Luckily his hands and his feet are really quite simple shapes. It was quite easy to push the detail of the toenails into each toe. Right, I was looking at him and I was thinking there's something missing, so it's those little tufts on the top of his head. So I just drilled some more holes, and then I've just added 2mm aluminium wire again into all of those holes, super glued them in place, and then later I'll be able to paint them to make them show up more. So at this point all the modelling was finished and I was ready to paint him. This is the bit I always get excited about. And I wanted to do a base coat first, so I just painted him black. This is what he looks like black. You can see you basically lose a lot of the detail as soon as you paint him black, because everything kind of looks dark, so all the high areas and all the low areas all kind of merge in with each other. It's quite hard to see the details on him anymore. I really like to work like this though, because it means that I can then dry brush all of the lighter colours over the top of this. Because Grug is a cartoon character who's got quite heavy black outlines, I think having the black on this is going to work really well. Okay, I tend to work from dark to light, so next I made a fairly dark brown colour and I've dry brushed that onto the darker brown stripes. You can see I've left the rest black at this stage. So Grug has 6 stripes, so at the bottom I started with a brown stripe, then I've left a black stripe, then another brown one, then another black one, then another brown one, then black again on the top. It doesn't show up particularly well in this video, but it gives you an idea, and you can see that I'm definitely working dark to light. So next I chose to use yellow ochre. By the way, I'm using System 3 acrylic paints for all of the painting on this. Again, the yellow ochre is just dry brushed over the top. If you haven't done dry brushing before, you take a bit of paint on your brush, and I use a really rough old brush that's really frayed, and then you just rub it on a bit of kitchen paper until it's almost dry, and then you're just dusting it over the top surface of all of the kind of high areas. So it just makes all of the bits that would be kind of naturally in highlight show up, and the black stays in all of the grooves, so it gives you this really bold effect. At this stage I was really pleased with how it was looking, but I knew it was the light colour that was going to make all the difference, So here you go. After painting his nose and his eyes and his mouth and his hands and his feet, this just made all the difference, made him really pop nicely. You can see I added some light to the ends of his hair tufts as well. That makes quite a difference. Okay, he's not one of my most detailed or most refined of my kind of sculpts that I've done, but I am really pleased with him and he looks cool on my side amongst all my other kind of creatures from movies and that sort of thing. He's just a character that has a real place in my heart because I really loved the books as a kid. I couldn't resist trying to bring him to life a little bit by turning him into a 3D form. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Check out my other videos of movie creatures and other characters that I've made. Hit subscribe to see anything that I post up in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.